Welcome, Mr. Bhandari, to the Mint Studios. Could you tell us with what aim IRMA was set up and what role does it play in the corporate world today?
IRMA's core mandate at that point, and this is with the recognition that India already had a lot of IIMs in place, was to bring professionalism, professional management skills to various aspects of rural development. And it was understood from its very inception that there was a pressing need to build sustainable institutions centered around the needs and aspirations of the producers of India. In that respect, its core mandate basically allowed IRMA's graduates to not only work with existing rural arrangements of the kind that we associate with the dairy movement, but also to go on to create a number of interesting NGOs, development organizations, citizens groups.
But has it really fulfilled its role today in terms of, with your retail chains coming in?
Sure.
Or is IRMA still, has it changed its policy at all? Do you allow corporates to, companies to come on for placements, or is it still on the NGO track?
I think since the 90s, there has been a sea change in the way that India pursues its own developmental objectives. IRMA's alumni, over the period from the 80s into the 90s, and I would say into the current decade, have done extraordinarily well in virtually all sectors of the economy,
right,
and indeed in government as well. And I think what one finds at a place like IRMA is a deep level of introspection on how the solutions that it has sought to evolve over a long period of time can now be addressed to the current scenario. Corporates, in that regard, are a key player. I think it's a well-established fact now. And I think within IRMA, there's a lot of discussion about the ways by which, in India's changing economic scenario, we can develop solutions that serve a developmental objective with the recognition that corporates are a key player.
Like you said, the alumni are all around, not just the sector
Absolutely.
that IRMA focuses on. And out of the 1,200 strong alumni that IRMA has, about
Right.
40% of them are not really in the NGO field anymore.
Sure.
And also, I think 15% of students who pass out actually go to a non-core field.
Sure.
So, are you looking at changing this policy at all, placement policy? Are we going to see corporates on the IRMA campus at all?
I mean, first, the numbers you're citing, I'm sure they're correct, but I'm not familiar with those numbers. What I would say is that IRMA's graduates have actually meandered through the world of development and the corporate sector and back and forth. And I think this is the case with virtually any young graduate of any mainstream institution in the country. One does find that kind of attribute. I think IRMA's own approach to serving developmental objectives is really what will determine IRMA's core placement policy. And much of this is under review.
So this is the first time in 30 years that actually a review for the placement policy has taken place?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think discussions have gone on before. And I think at various stages there have been subtle shifts in the placement policy. But what the future holds is something that we'll find out.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bhandari.
My views have always been that IRMA should cater to the rural sector because we have about 760 million people in the rural sector, and out of which 70 to 80% of them are very poor. And I think the IRMA deserves to put in its professional managers in the rural sector. It need not be purely non-profits. It could be NGOs, it could be cooperatives, it could be companies working for the rural sector, it could be supply chain people, microfinance agencies, livelihoods agencies promoting renewable energy, solar energy. All those kind of companies are okay. But I wouldn't like IRMA to cater to a corporate which has no interest in the rural sector and whose benefits don't flow to the rural sector.
See, in my opinion, it's now time that this policy gets changed, because 30 years back, what policy we had in terms of encouraging most of the graduates to go to development sector, it made a lot of sense. But the differences that have arisen during the course of last 30 years suggest that it's time IRMA go to corporate. I'm saying so because corporates today have enough funds to reach to the widespread rural areas, which was not the case 30 years back. So we were that time primarily dependent on government funds or NGOs, and the process of development can be much faster, can be much more efficient through the corporate route vis-a-vis NGOs or government route. And same IRMAs, instead of going to NGOs or government, if they go to corporates now, would deliver the same objective in a much faster fashion than otherwise.